Hey everyone. Today we'll recap a 2019 story named Yes God Yes. Spoilers ahead, watch out and enjoy. It is the fall of 2000. Alice is a sexually inexperienced but curious junior at a strict Midwestern co-ed Catholic high school. As the story began, she saw their teacher Miss Vita, who fined students for not following the proper dress code. In class, Alice is shocked when Father Murphy explains that sexual intercourse is sacred and should only occur between a married man and woman. When asked about self-gratification, he declares it a path to eternal damnation, emphasizing as a sin, which is a new and troubling concept for Alice. Later she meets her best friend Laura. She then tells Laura about Father Murphy's statement that self-pleasure is a sin, who teases her for being so focused on the love scenes from Titanic. That afternoon when she gets home from school, Alice logs on to an AOL chat room after eating food, feeding her dog Gus, and completing kitchen work. In the AOL chat room, she enjoys playing a word scramble game with strangers. Suddenly, someone named Harry Chess 1956 sends her an instant message. She finds his private pictures with his wife when she opens his message. First, she tries to ignore it, but then she sends him a message when he asks about her location and age. Before she knows it, she finds herself having cybersex and touching herself for the first time. The following Monday, the school is abuzz with a rumor that Alice tossed the salad of a classmate, Wade, at Laura's party over the weekend. Alice denies this, admitting to not knowing what the phrase means. Everyone begins laughing at her and making fun of them. Their classmate Beth suggests she go on a retreat offered by the school as she needs it, but she doesn't understand anything. Later at prayer, she is not allowed to bear gifts as the rumor reaches Mrs. Veda that she is into the wrong stuff, and God forbids those from bearing gifts who are on the wrong path. This upsets her badly. Later that day, at confession with Father Murphy, Alice admits to minor sins. She receives a light penance of 20 prayers, which she immediately and fervently fulfills in the school chapel. However, while doing so, she continually has Father Murphy and Mrs. Veda's words about sex echoing in her mind. Alice and Laura both decide to attend the school's next Kirkos spiritual retreat, Alice to return to the path of righteousness, and Laura to be accepted by Nina, a popular senior. When they arrive at the retreat campgrounds, Laura is excited to find that Nina is a retreat leader, while Alice eyes Chris, a hunky senior, who is also a retreat leader. Chris is friendly and enthusiastic, and Alice is assigned to Nina's group. She takes her to her cabin. Everyone finds the room by their names on the board. Nina asks for her phone and watch, and she gives her watch but keeps the phone after lying she doesn't have it. Later in the hall, Laura and Alice sit at different tables with their groups according to rules, which upsets both. Alice is in group 1, whose leader is Chris. Father Murphy gives a lecture on the relationship with God. During the lecture, Miss Vita distributed pages where they had to mark the feelings they felt this year. Alice completes it and marks the feeling of turning on, but later regrets it and tries to erase it, but the eraser doesn't work. Miss Vita collects the papers. That night, while playing on her contraband cell phone, Alice accidentally discovers that she can pleasure herself using her phone's vibrating feature. On the second day of the retreat, they all go on a hike, where Laura tells her that she is getting close to Nina, who complimented her hair in the morning. Alice was continuously staring at Chris, who was talking to other girls. Alice fakes an injury on a hike to get closer to Chris, and Chris carries her in his arms to take them back to the cabin. Nina confiscates Alice's phone from her room when she arrives to tell her about the group photo. Later, they took a group photo and headed towards the mess for lunch. Father Murphy has a conversation with Alice after finding out about her lie from Nina. He tells her that they have a reason for everything they are told to do. He cannot go this unpunished, so he assigns Alice to cleaning duties around the retreat house. Once she is alone, she logs onto an AOL chat room from Father Murphy's office computer to ask what tossing salad means. Before she can find out, the sound of footsteps causes her to hastily shut off the computer and leave. She runs into Nina, who lightheartedly guilts Alice about Alice's presumed sexual encounter with Wade, another instance of Alice's inability to be free of the rumor even while in Jesus' time. Meanwhile, the family sends letters to their children, and Father Murphy and Miss Vita read them out loud in front of everyone. Laura cries after listening to her mother's words for her. Chris sits with his group, asking them to share one sad story where they felt they were away from God. Andrew and another girl shared their story, but Alice had no story, so she made up a fake story about her dog's death to gain Chris's sympathy. However, he sympathizes with the other girl, which makes Alice jealous. On the third day of the retreat, Father Murphy announces his discovery of an explicit chat on his computer. However, no one claimed responsibility. Later, He had a time when students went to discuss their sins with him. He has a conversation with Alice, and he pushes Alice to confess to acting on her sexual temptations with Wade and doesn't believe her insistence that nothing happened. Alice was cleaning when she saw Wade. She confronts Wade about his complicity in the rumors spread about them, but he denies it, blaming Alice responsible as his girlfriend Heather left him due to those rumors. She wants him to clarify it to other students, but he leaves without admitting his fault or apologizing. Again on cleaning duty, Alice witnesses Nina kissing, then fellating another senior leader in the woods, which surprises Alice. She was about to satisfy herself while watching them, but got interrupted by a worker lady. Alice on the hike shares this with Laura, who refuses to believe Alice and warns her to make up stories. She gets upset and accuses Alice of breaking into Father Murphy's office and ends their friendship, calling Alice a pervy psycho. Alice returns to Father Murphy's office and frames Wade for the earlier break-in by leaving his named bracelet on Father Murphy's table, which she found on the dustbin. While hiding to make her escape, she catches Father Murphy masturbating to a pornographic video saved on his computer. She was surprised to find it. She gets frustrated and leaves the cabin. Outside, she finds Chris, who asks her what happened to her. When she finds herself alone with Chris, Alice kisses him, but he becomes overwhelmed and runs away. She saw another student enjoying singing along with Father Murphy, but she was disturbed. That night, Alice flees the campgrounds alone and stumbles upon a lesbian bar, where she and the owner, Gina, commiserate about how the fear of damnation can warp an adolescent's development. Gina shares that she spent 12 years in Catholic school and was the same as a teenager. She felt ashamed of herself whenever she cheated on her homework or something like that. But later she spent a week in San Francisco, where she was into adult stuff, which changed her completely. She relates to Alice's statement that she always thought she would go to hell due to her little sins. Gina counsels Alice and tells her to be careful online, as there are some bad people there, and never share her password with anyone. She gives her a ride back to the retreat, encouraging Alice to look into colleges on the west and east coasts. Finally, Alice's curiosity comes up, and she asks her what the phrase tossing salad means, which makes her laugh. On the last day of the retreat, Alice befriends a socially awkward classmate, while Father Murphy pulls Wade aside, thinking he is the one who used his computer. Laura sits with Alice in class and apologizes for blaming her for the chat. She reveals that everyone found out it was Wade behind it. She believes Wade has made that rumor about her. Alice forgives her. Father Murphy gives the lecture about living what they experienced in 4 days of retreat. He wants students to come to the mic and share their experiences and what they have learned and understood through this retreat. At a whole group sharing session, Wade first talks about himself, and Alice feels bad for setting him up in a fake case. Alice then tells the students that high school students' lives stink because they cannot make any decisions on their own. They want to talk about things going on in their life, but they do not have anyone, and people spread rumors about them. She reminds the retreat attendees that everyone is hiding stuff and implores them to treat each other with honesty and respect, as Jesus wanted. They should not feel guilty all the time about who they are as they are figuring out their matters. As she returns home, she meets her father and talks about eating sushi, and later asks him which college she will go to. Back at school, Alice reassures a still uncomfortable Chris that they can just be friends. Returning to reconciliation with Father Murphy, Alice boldly reveals that while on the retreat, she saw a video of people making out love, both of them knowing whom she is talking about, but not discussing the implications of her confession. Father Murphy assigns a heavier penance of 100 prayers, but instead of remaining in the chapel, Alice goes home to rest and satisfies herself by watching Scene and Titanic.